As you know, we've discussed the Morrison government lost the vote in relation to the union-busting legislation when One Nation chose to vote with Labor, the Greens and Jacqui Lambie. Now, the final vote was a tie, 34-34, which in procedural terms means the vote fails. This was a loss for the government, and it's come after months of negotiations with crossbench parties to gain their support for these laws, which were set to make it easier to deregister unions and disqualify officials who breach workplace laws. A strong proponent for these laws to help reduce lawlessness inside Australia's billion-dollar construction industry from the outset has been the Master Builders Association of Australia. The CEO, Denita Wawn, joins me now live from Canberra. Denita, this is a pretty tough day for your sector. You have fought for a long time to have the rule of law on building sites right around the country. What's your reaction tonight?
Our members are gutted. This was a recommendation of the Hayden Royal Commission that we've been fighting for well over 3 years now. This is all about ensuring that any official, whether they're from unions or employers, simply comply with the law, and that those who don't comply with the law on a systemic basis are held accountable. And unfortunately, some of those crossbenchers today have taken the decision to support those who decide that law breaking is acceptable.
Why do you think they walked away from these laws and they're voting for the status quo? And we know, we go through the litany of officials who face very serious charges and indeed convictions, who act with impunity inside the industry. Why do you think they've walked away from getting the industry back, as I said, on a lawful footing?
Look, that is a question I guess Peter will have to ask those senators. We were of the understanding that given that their amendments that they had sought had been accepted by the government, that they were committed to supporting that legislation. That obviously didn't take place today, and it is up to One Nation to explain the reason why they changed their vote and explain to our thousands and thousands of small businesses that are harassed and bullied on a daily basis and have union officials coming in illegally into their businesses. It is up to them to explain that.
Yeah, give me some sense of what the impact will. I mean, the big guys will hire teams of IR officials and others to work for industry to combat the unions. They'll all look after themselves. But tell me what the impact's going to be on the contractors and the small to mediums inside this industry at a time we know when the economy is already under some pressure.
Well, we estimate that there is a 30% increase to the cost of construction because of the illegal action undertaken by the CFMMEU. We know that there have been 437 breaches of the Fair Work Act over the last 2 years. Well over 90% of those have been by one union, the CFMMEU. And we've got to remember that our industry is represented by 98% are small to medium-sized businesses. These are the smaller parts of the supply chain that are dealing with the issues of union bullying and harassment every single day. We just simply want all unions and employer groups to do the right thing and not break the law. That was the intent of the legislation, and for those who continually break the law, as federal court after federal court cases identified, that they are held account for their actions. And by this legislation not being passed today, that means that that will continue day in, day out until the legislation is reintroduced. We are not going away on this. We will continue to fight hard and strong until we see this legislation introduced.
Well, we know how hard it was for the Labor Party to take any sort of action against John Setka. He has a rap sheet of convictions as long as my arm and probably my legs as well. I mean, it's an extraordinary character to see in political life, in public life, still maintain his position in the CFMEU in Victoria. Yes, he's out of the Labor Party, but he had to resign before anyone could really take much action on him. Does this mean that the construction big boys in the CFMEU are untouchable as far as the law is concerned?
Well, it would seem this way at the moment, Peter, but I would hope in the long term that is not the case. It's interesting to note, out of all of those 437 convictions that I've identified earlier, John Setka's name was not on one of those officials that was brought to account by the courts. So this is not just about John Setka, this is about the intent of a certain union in taking action that is unlawful in construction sites. We will not let this go. We will continue to fight for our members' rights of ensuring that the rule of law is obeyed on building sites. Unfortunately, it's just going to take longer than we had anticipated.
Okay, well, I'll just leave it there, but just to be clear, you will now keep pursuing negotiations with the Crossbench?
Absolutely. We will continue discussions. We'll continue discussions with the government, but this is an integral priority for our organisation, and we will continue to stand up for our members to ensure that the rule of law is in fact being enforced and followed on our members' building sites.
Right, thanks very much for your time, Denita Wawn. I know you're under pressure with a lot of media requests. I really appreciate you coming on tonight. Denita Wawn, she's the CEO of the Master Builders Association of Australia.